we are, all roads lead to the gym with Cody Maloney.
And me.
My
I'm
homeboy
here.
Otto. Last night we had our company Christmas party.
Yeah.
Um,
We're evolving.
went to a local establishment. Shout out Sassy's.
Yeah. Yes.
We rented it out so no one else could be there. And we had our group of personal trainers, employees, people that have helped us out
yeah.
over the last couple, 3 or 4 years, friends, just a good time. Otto got some new cologne, some Tom Ford.
Shout out to Devin. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyway, today our special guest is Cody Maloney.
Thank you for having me.
Yep. Cody used to be a personal trainer here when it was Cornerstone Family Fitness back in the day. Been a member here pretty much since we opened, I think.
Yep.
Pretty close.
Yes.
And Cody and I have had a lot of talks about nutrition and supplements, and we had Haley on talking about optimizing hormones, which is a very important. I mean, we had a seminar last week, went well, had a lot of people come in and get their blood drawn and get their hormone levels tested and consult with her on that. But this is something that's even a little simpler. When I say simpler, I don't mean the concept is simpler. I mean it costs less.
No offense.
You don't have to go to a doctor
Yeah.
to necessarily optimize your supplements and nutrition and vitamins and things. And Cody's very, very well versed in what each one of those things do and how they affect the body and affect your health. So that's why we asked Cody to come on today. So I'll let you just kind of introduce yourself and talk about what it is you do and have done, and we'll start. Hey, we're gonna have. I guarantee you, Otto's gonna be blown away.
I'm ready to fire out questions already.
Yeah,
I'm ready to go.
because I know Otto's not sat and talked with you like I have, so I know him and I know how his brain works, and he's gonna be like, he's
tell
gonna
me
be
so.
hitting up the vitamin store.
Yeah.
Later.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, without further ado, Cody, take it away.
Like I said, thank you for having me, and the pressure's on now. I was a personal trainer here through the American College of Sports Medicine, so ACSM, Certified Personal Trainer. I actually sat at that bar right out there and studied while I did training. That was back in about 2014. I just graduated Emporia State University, so shout out to Emporia State. I appreciate them. Went through the health promotion program, and it was very interesting how I got there. I'll topic that later, but ultimately, I went on this road, ended up on this road. And it was quite interesting seeing the, kind of revealing the concepts of personal training and how it was still yet separated from the health, wellness, and nutrition, which, led me to my, kind of like the own research. Did my own research on a lot of studies and, resulting around supplements. I listened to a lot of podcasts, Peter Attia, Andrew Huberman, even Joe Rogan's, podcast. The guests that he has on are amazing. And, I like the people that you have here as well. The collective, the collective of people that we have in this small town can still make a significant difference. And there's a complexity about the health field, fitness, nutrition, and things like that. And that's kind of where I'm bringing this back to me, where I try to simplify things. So while I will long-wind a lot of responses, bear with me, people. While I long-wind a lot of the responses, I try to give a multiple perspective point of view in order to simplify it. So I give, something that may hit home with you, something that may hit home with you, or anyone else, and try to simplify it the best that I can. But, I went to Independence Community College here, and like I said, went to Emporia State. And along that way, I kind of bounced in between different majors. But along the way, it was still kind of solidified in my foundation because of my grandfather. He helped me realize how important being healthy is. He's still with us today, 80 years old. So shout out to my grandfather. And sadly, my grandmother, she passed away, and it was kind of further ingrained into me how important it was to be healthy. She passed away in 2004. and that was very rough for me. So those two people in my life were significantly impactful, influential to where I am now. And obviously you stay healthy for your kiddos. I've got 3 amazing little kiddos, and they want to come to the gym like crazy. Every time I go to the hotel, they want to run on the treadmill. They want to do something. They want to work out because they see me do it. So or probably they're just competitive. But going off tangent here, but starting college in 2009, or even back in high school when I graduated that same year, it was always ingrained into me on how important it was to be healthy. But what I noticed and why I ended up here, because I was talking with you, and is I just try to keep it simple. I give those perspectives, and without kind of long-winding anymore, what questions do you have?
I would
What direction you
say
wanna go?
he says it's simple,
Yeah.
but I'm very. I mean, it's very complex actually. I would say first off, just for your average everyday person who just not feeling well and they've never taken a vitamin before, where should they start?
That's a very good question. A lot of people generally look towards the path of, what are additives in our food, and they start looking down the complex route, which is very important, like the dyes and things like that, and high fructose corn syrup, all these big names that you hear. Where I've felt, for me personally, the best place to start is to really focus on your sleep, because recovery comes from sleep. But you also have kind of the snake biting its tail, where you don't really get good sleep if you didn't eat well. And if you didn't eat well, you don't sleep well, but also your hydration. And you can consider that consumption, eating, what have you. So you got hydration, food, and sleep. And if you don't start somewhere along that path, some people, it works better if they hydrate first. Other people, it works better if they get their sleep first. Because if you've ever noticed, if you're dehydrated, right, you wake up the next morning after a party or something like that, you're tired, you're exhausted. So it's I have told them, and what works for me is to try those 3 things. Start somewhere, one of those 3, all 3, whatever, and make note of that. A lot of people aren't very introspective. They don't look kind of in on themselves very much. A lot of guys who work out, it may be for vanity or strength or showing off or whatever else. And I'm speaking for the guys because I can't speak for the women.
Me.
But I would say start with your sleep. Figure out how much sleep you got last night, maybe the night before. Your phone, your smartwatch. There's a plethora of technology, devices, tools, phones, something.
Is that legit? So I have a smartwatch. I don't ever use it. But I've seen someone, was it you, who does the sleep thing? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is that accurate? That stuff's accurate?
For me, I use Zepp by Amazfit, which I got off of Amazon. I like them. I'm not sponsored by them. I know people who wear Apple watches. I know people who wear Galaxy watches. And, again, it's the accuracy of it. And so if you've slept for 10 hours, for sure, the last time you looked at your phone, it said 9 p.m., and you woke up and it was 10 hours later, and for a fact that you did, but your watch says 5, something's not right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a Garmin watch, and it tells you how many minutes you spend in REM, the rapid eye movement sleep, and
Okay, let's see.
which is the deepest sleep you can be in. That's when you get your real rest, and that's where mine lacks.
Yeah.
I attribute that to being in emergency services since I was 19, where
So you're never really relaxed.
we never were woke up by the alarm
Yeah.
so many times, and if you were in a deep sleep, you might miss a fire. You
Yeah.
might miss a call. When I worked at the fire department, we slept at night. We had bunks that we slept in, and when the alarm would go off, there were people who would miss the fire truck from time to time.
Yeah.
We wouldn't
That's
even
incredible.
notice till we got there. They're not here, and then we go back and they're asleep, and they slept through the whole thing.
That's incredible.
So now later on in life, you
It's
can't
just-
sleep because you're...
20 years of that, I'm a very light sleeper. Yeah.
Yeah, and going along with the sleep, I can't attribute it, comparatively, with services. So first off, thank you
Yeah.
for doing that. Thank you for being part of that and doing what you do. Don't want to skim over that, but,
That's one of my least favorite things. So go ahead.
but if you are lifting, running, working out, even stretching, you're doing something to your body, creating micro tears. You're doing something to the body other than just remaining sedentary and not moving whatsoever. So therefore your body needs recovery. So you need the nutrients and you need the sleep, said recovery. So I tell people to start there, focus on your sleep and focus on your intake and focus on your hydration. Now, what does the intake mean and what does the hydration mean? When you're focusing on your intake, there's a complexity about that. How many calories? How much protein? How many grams of protein? Carbs? But should I take this or that, or complete protein, incomplete protein? You talk about the carbs that are your free carbs like vegetables, and you talk about because it has fiber. We can go all down these multitude of paths, these routes, or many different roads. We can go down complete complexity, or you can take a step back and go, I'm just going to eat as lean as possible. What does that mean? Well, you still have to look at the nutrition facts, the label, the ingredients, and things like that. So again, people get frustrated. They're like, well, I'm just trying something. Somebody who knows what they're talking about, telling somebody who's wanting to do something about their life, that person gets frustrated because that expert is telling them they're doing it wrong. Mm-hmm. And it's frustrating because they're like, no, I'm just doing something. You just told me just to do something. So I'm trying to do something. And now you're telling me I'm doing that something wrong. And this is one of the things that, I hope a lot of people hear this, because it can be very frustrating, especially for someone who's new, wanting to know what the heck this long-winded person is trying to get to, the point they're trying to get to, So you're going to eat lean, and what is lean? We look at fats and we think, okay, well, that's not lean. That's a whole other topic, right? That's a ton of information behind it.
I'll tell you one thing that someone once told me that was kind of like wow, I never thought of it that way. That when you hear the word fat in food, you immediately think of fat that's on your body.
Right.
And they are not the same thing.
Right.
And so people attribute, if I eat this fat, that adds to my fat.
The saying of you are what you eat.
Yeah.
That's completely not true. And I'm speaking from a perspective of where I've interpreted the information from, of people who are way smarter than me. So obviously, if you're going to eat sugar, which converts to a storage, which converts to fat, then therefore you are what you eat, just a storage of energy, potential energy that's not being utilized. And so with that fat, the sugars, which are carbs, and then you look at the proteins and you think, okay, what does it mean to eat lean, right? So the thing I tell people is just to eat as low of a sugar content as possible. Don't worry the fact that sugars are carbs, right? Just as low of a sugar content as possible. And if you can eat meats, there are people who can't with some, diseases or something that you get, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, Lyme disease, certain things that you get from ticks and other things where they can't eat red meat or meat in general. But if you eat eggs or anything of the sort, red beans and rice, which are two incomplete proteins that come together to make a complete protein, which is a whole other path, but it's just eating as lean as possible. So as much protein, essentially, right? As much protein as possible, because your body will stop you when you just can't eat anymore. You'll get satiety. You'll be like, too much protein.
Meat sweats, things
like that. Or people with protein drinks, they'll just try to take their daily recommended amount in protein drinks, whether it's milk or water mixed with a protein powder, and they have issues. They go to the restroom all day long, like it's a problem. And then they try to add fiber to their diet, and it upsets their stomach. So there's many different ways you could look at this. You could look at it as this is kind of your art. Your life is your art, and it's very kind of, frilly or whatever I'm trying to say, where it's like, this is my artistic capability. No, it's like it's your art form. Like, how are you going to create your body, your masterpiece, whether it's internal or external? Or you can look at this as a complexity that is frustrating, that it's overwhelming because there's so much information, and that's why there's these secrets, these gurus, and this and that and the other. And again, that's where I come in and go, let's make it more simple. Even though I'm going down these paths, I'm giving literal perspective blips along the way. So your sleep, lean as possible, lowest sugar, leanest possible by highest protein, lowest sugar. That's simple. That's easier to comprehend and to do, even though I'm story timing. And then your hydration. This is the biggest one that I want to get to. Our body will absorb, whether it's like osmotically or, kind of like a sponge, absorb the water that it needs. If you've ever noticed, as an example, if you eat something that's really salty or sugary, like pizza generally, right? It's a lot of salt, but it's also, the carbs convert to a lot of sugar, right? Mm-hmm. So your stomach just feels like it just bloats. Okay, that's part of your water going to your digestive tract to get it out. Like, it's to digest it.
Yeah.
So when people think of hydration, they think just solely of water. They don't think about the minerals behind it, which again can be frustrating to a lot of people because they're thinking, okay, now I got to worry about minerals and water and lean protein and sugar and this and that. There's a lot of information behind that. But if
And
you
a full-time job
and
and
full-time
a
job, kids, animals, dogs, things they're watching. So when you kind of look at that in a trifecta, see, made you guys thirsty now. When you look at a trifecta of sleep, hydration, and lean food, like what your intake is, it can be really simplified to higher protein, lower sugar, your hydration. Focus on that. Your body will tell you if you're thirsty and you're constantly drinking water and you feel bloated. There's either too much too much salt or not enough salt, or you have sugar. There's variables to that, but your body will tell you. You just got to pay attention to it, and then you look at your sleep, obviously. So that's what I focus on when people say,
is water the
scholar.
best thing to drink to hydrate?
That's a very good question, because if you're rehydrating, you remember Gatorade when it first came out. It was the top performance.
it was the thing.
It was, this is how you rehydrate. Because if you get like a cup of water and you get a cup of salt next to it, and you constantly add water to just a little bit of salt, so you got 3 cups, let's just say, just for visual. You got a cup of water, a cup of salt, and then in the third cup it's empty. So if you add a little bit of salt from the second one into the third cup, and then you add the water from the first cup into the third cup, fill all the way to the top, you got very little salt content. But the water is more than the salt, just like your body. The third cup's representing your body. I'm trying to describe this best I can. And you have an hyperhydration of the body, right? If you have the reverse of that, you added that cup of salt, the second cup, and then you had a cup of water, the first cup, and you put that first cup of water in that salt. Of course, it's going to go over a little bit, but the point is that it's going to absorb a bit of that salt because the salt pulls the water. But water also pulls the salt if you have too much water. So there's a balance.
Like
in
you
your body
can't
as well.
drink salt water from the ocean; you'll dehydrate.
Exactly.
Right.
That's a prime example of that. And then people don't even realize there's something in our body called a sodium-potassium pump. And I'm not uber smart. I just remember that from my class, kind of like the ATP PCR system for energy, which we'll take topic soon. But you remember these things, or I remember these things, the sodium-potassium pump. And basically, the biology professor that explained this the best to me was, it's a teeter-totter. You have potassium on one side, you have the water cup in the middle, and then you have the sodium on the other side. So it's a teeter-totter. So your body will tell you if you have too much salt, bloating, you'll be you have edema, so you'll be like puffy. People with like congestive heart failure or just inability to get out fluids for whatever reason, kidney issues or otherwise, they'll be puffy. And that's a high concentration of fluids. Now, it could be a medical condition, or it could be salt, but that's all the point. The point is that you have these minerals in your body, and I believe there's like 6, but there may be less or more. I just remember 6 of them that really focuses on the overall hydration of the body. But the 2 biggest ones, if you flip over any sports drink, they call them, any rehydration drink, whether it be Gatorade, Powerade, Ghosts has some. And so if you look at it, it'll say sodium, potassium, but then they'll also have things like magnesium and calcium. So there's other ingredients to that picture, but the biggest 2 that I really have ever seen, and again, I'm not the expert here, but is sodium and potassium. That's why they tell you to drink a sports drink. But then if you notice on there, on some of the labels of those sports drinks, it'll say consume X amount of cups of water per sports drink or per serving, because there's a high concentration of salt in it.
Yeah.
So they've got it mixed up nice where it looks like just colorful liquid, and it's got a ton of salt in it that you can't see, that you don't see except you read the
Which is an
label.
electrolyte.
Which is an
sodium.
electrolyte.
So what about the BCA all day drinkers?
That's a very good topic as well. It's one that's very complex in my opinion, but the way that I looked at it, to simplify it, because that's how I have to remember things. I have to try to simplify them the best that I can. I believe Andrew Huberman has a kind of a little spigot, a little piece of a podcast where he talks about this in complexity. It's like 45 minutes long, but then he summarizes it to, you have a pool of amino acids that you want your body to have to pull from, like a pool of it that you take from. And you also want to be taking in protein, because proteins are broken down into amino acids. So you have leucine, isoleucine, and valine, and then you might have some other ones that you hear of, like glutamine and things like that help make up that protein structure. You want to constantly have that pool of them in any way, shape, or form, in order to keep the your body in anabolic stasis rather than catabolic, because that's where the breakdown occurs, which is like those people who show up at the gym, New Year's resolutioners, pre-spring break or right after spring break for the summer body thing, for the vanity of it. They'll come in here and they'll lift weights all day long, but they won't feed themselves the right nutrition. So then they'll get cut, but then they can't maintain that body mass. And when they come through this period of time, it's generally 2.5 months. Some people won't even make it to the 21 days, which creates a habit, psychologically. They will somehow sustain, and I was one of these guys for the longest time, they'll somehow sustain their activity level, but they won't sustain the recovery, capability period, whatever word I'm looking for here. And they will actually start to lose the mass, in which therefore they lose the mass, they lose the energy, because you're not taking in enough to sustain muscle, right? Yeah. And muscle is like the most wasteful energy, thing there is in the body. If your body doesn't want to maintain muscle because it uses so much energy, right? I say wasteful, it's very beneficial, but it uses so much energy, which is why you see guys who lift weights who are cut, fit, women too, and they can sit there and down McDonald's and pizza and things like that, and you're looking at them like, how? Well, they've went over that hill. Now, if they kept doing that and they didn't work out, they're obviously going to go back the other way. Yeah. So to answer your question, the best way that I can is BCAA all day, branched chain amino acid, or complete profile. That's just kind of preventative in a way, just like we work out to be preventative. You definitely want to take something in that's going to help keep you in an anabolic state. And what is that?
I've been told, so I drink the BCAAs a lot because I like the way they taste, and I don't have drinking water alone is just not a good time to me.
Right.
It's just not fun. So I find ways to try to make it a little more fun. But what I've always been told about the BCAAs, so the brand I drink, Extend, is full of electrolytes and BCAAs. But the BCAAs, if you described it as a pool to pull from, but if you overflow that pool, your body just gets rid of them. Like, there's enough here, we've got enough now, and you just expel them out. So you're kind of wasting. If you're drinking it for something other than the taste, you might just be flushing it down the stool, literally.
Generally what happens with the B vitamins and things like that, the green tea fad of the 90s and things of that nature, is that's where the frustration comes in for people who want to know more or don't know more, feel like they're being judged, or that they're new and they're just curious, that they feel like every turn that they make is that. So the best thing that I say to people is literally note it in your phone. I mean, I have a notepad on my phone of a couple things that, if we kind of trail off back and forth, there's things I want to add to those topics. So I write this down all the time of things that I want to make sure I don't forget to talk to people about. And that's one of them, is literally writing them down. So if you take a supplement and, later on, let's say you didn't write it down, and later on and your stomach was hurting, as we tell the kids, bubble gut or something like that. Then I go, what the heck did I take earlier? There's apps to record that. But there's the ability just to write in a notepad, say, don't ever take this again. So when you go to buy it from the shelf again, you go, wait a minute, did I buy this before? I think I did. So you just pull your note app out, and there it is. And you're like, oh, can't have that because of this, that, and the other. And it may change in 3, 5, 7 years. It may change.
Hey, that made me giggle thinking about one day Otto and I were here at the gym working, and someone had gifted me a new brand of protein that I had never had before.
Oh, bro.
And I drank, I got finished with my workout, drank a scoop of this protein. I'm not going to say the name of it. I don't want to sue me, but oh, my God.
He just started acting like, I think we were mid-project, like we were doing some sort of project or something, working on something in the back. And usually when it's a project, he's getting after it. You know what I mean? He knows what he's doing. He doesn't stop moving, and he just kept moving funny. You know, and I'm like, the hell, and he just out of nowhere, he just, and he wouldn't say what it was for a while.
My
And
stomach
then he
felt
said-
like it was 3 times the normal
Oh,
yeah.
size. I mean, I was dying. Like, I said, get in the truck, and we went to Walgreens, and I bought Gas X.
Yeah.
And
You didn't even tell me we were going to
Pepto-Bismol.
Walgreens. Like we were going to pick up some chairs or something from somewhere, and he just pulls into Walgreens and he's like, "I can't do it anymore. I got to get something." He's
I
like,
couldn't
"Come on."
even bend over. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, I can't. And then I just gave it to Otto, and
And I
it worked
ate it
well.
all.
I mean, you had no problem with that.
No, so I'm like, I don't know if I'm completely lactose. I'm pretty touchy, and so I just know to like if I'm gonna drink whey protein, I mean I like half scoop it and just drink it with some almond milk, and like I'll stretch it out for a while. I could kind of see how if I did like a big heaping scoop of it, I probably would have.
There are other proteins that do not affect me that way at all.
That's what happens to a lot of people is they find out that they can't have like a rice protein, or they find out that they can't have a soluble or insoluble fiber added to that. If you notice, some of those protein powders have like what am I trying to say? I lost for words real quick. Is a prebiotic added to them, and so something that's like in a yogurt, and maybe even some caffeine. Some protein powders have caffeine in them. So if you have the fiber, the prebiotic, and the caffeine, you all know that messes with your GI tract.
Yeah.
So then you have this protein added to it that's a powder. And if you find out you're lactose intolerant, or if it's just messes with your stomach because it's a powder and water, that can be an interesting situation. I used to work at GNC back when I was in college, and we had people come in going, "Hey, no, I need to return this." Same
Yeah.
situation as you might know.
I pooped my
can't do
pants.
it. Yeah, like just some ridiculous stuff. You wouldn't believe the stories too.
Yeah.
And I would go, "Okay, ma'am, like ma'am or sir, because it happened to, but and you wouldn't believe the stories that I see." And so I would just exchange them, and we would try to help them best we could. What happened, what was going on. And that's another thing too. We had this book, Prescription for Nutritional Information, I think is what it's called. It was our GNC Bible, even though it wasn't by GNC.
Yeah.
And so no sponsored by them or anything like that. But it was fascinating working there and helping people depending on what their needs were, rather than just selling, like a promotional item and things like that. Because they did come back in. If it wasn't for them, they did come back in and they let you know.
Yeah.
And they didn't care who else was in the store because they were wronged, even though we don't, again, you don't know what it does to people, BCAAs with or without electrolytes. And that's something else I kind of want to segue to as well. I'm glad that you said it like that, and kind of we went this direction, because it's very imperative that people who are listening, and the family members, tell friends, tell family. We could sit here and say that, this supplement XYZ or that supplement XYZ will work for you, right? And let's say that it does. Just by happenstance, you recommend something to me and it works. If I recommend something to you, let's assume that situation didn't happen. The thing that people forget is, and the biggest problem of all with focusing on packaging products and things like that, is that those ingredients change.
Yeah.
They change. It's supply and demand. I mean, I take nootropics, and which are like the brain boosting supplements. And clearly I lost my train of thought twice in this already, but so it could work for me, it could not work for me, it could work for you, not work for you. But what I found is buying them, about the 5th container of this nootropic supplement, I won't list the name, but they changed the ingredients. I was kind of upset about it. I was like, why did you change the ingredients? You added one, you took out another. Now I noticed the effect immediately. And actually one of the ingredients in that supplement was beta-alanine. You guys know what happens with beta-alanine. It gives you the itchy, and it's kind of like an niacin flush that people get otherwise. And I took it and I go, whoa, I'm feeling weird. I like that feeling. I remember that feeling. I lifted with that feeling in college, all through college. But that's not the time or the place to have that as a nootropic supplement. And for me personally.
Yeah.
So, I implore people to pay attention to
What
the
they're
labels.
what
Say,
they're ingesting.
the ingredients, because you could get recommended something by a friend, a family member, a personal trainer, a nutritionist or dietitian, whichever one you decide to call them, or your doctor, and you get recommended something and the ingredients change. And that's really, really important to understand that, which can frustrate people, or it can give them a sense of going, that makes sense. That was working for me, and now that thing is not working for me. Supplement food, otherwise, things like that.
So what should everyone have in their cabinet? Just,
Standard.
yeah.
What's the standard? Let's just say standard male.
I think the standard individual, male specifically, but because I can speak to males, but not all males, I think just a general multivitamin, multi-mineral supplement. And there's a handful of them out there. And with that topic of what supplement, multivitamin, multi-mineral, again, we got to assume the label is going to change. So then you go, okay, well, what was the label at the time the research was done? Who done the research? Mm-hmm. How do I know that that's factual? How do I know that that's true? Things like that. There's a lot of questions to surround yourself by. But I always urge people to do a little bit of homework. It will pay off. It's like an investment. Your body is your investment of time. That's why you guys have a gym. You work out here. It's investment of time for the future. So take an hour or 2 hours, because if it helps you, then you've just invested 2 hours for the rest of your life to extend your life. Multivitamin, multimineral supplement. I would even urge people to either get something that has a probiotic in it, or even just start trying out different probiotics like yogurts like Oikos or kefir. But on the topic of which supplement, how do you know which one? Make sure that you look that it's got a quality grade of some sort. Then you're doing yourself justice, even if it isn't, quality. There are many different websites you can use. I think there's one called, it's examine.com, then there's pubmed.gov, and there are a handful of sites that you can go to, governmental or commercial otherwise, and what you will find is even on these .whatever sites, .com, .gov, .net, .edu, edu is a really good one because they're usually independent, really low funded, but they kind of do the research on their own, I think. But you look at these and you go, okay, well, they list these, let's say 50 supplements. Usually they only list 5 or 10. And then you go, okay, that name is familiar over here, so you're cross-referencing. You see these names come a multitude of times, and you also got to be aware of who's being paid to do that study as well, right?
Yeah.
But if you come across multiple supplements on different websites that have the same name, that are the same one, then I would urge people to.
So the same brand
that.
On multiple top 10s,
yes,
is a good sign.
Yeah, because a lot of people just go to the store and they'll just go, well, that says. Yeah. It's a multivitamin. That says that it's a complete yada yada that. And you'll get things.
I kind of feel like though the answer you're saying the answer is there's no answer.
There's not really an answer, which is frustrating.
It's because I wanted to hear okay, you should have
you should have this
a multivitamin. Because for me, I take a multivitamin, Centrum Silver, since I'm over 50, and that's.
I'm glad you said that too.
It's a name brand that has been trusted since I've been seeing Centrum Silver commercials for 30, 40 years, or Centrum commercials. I take fish oil for the heart health and brain because it has some omega-3. It's not just fish oil. It's has omega-3
oils.
Omegas,
EPA, DHA, yeah.
Yep. For brain and heart health, I take vitamin C for immune support. I believe in vitamin C. I know there's a lot of people who say, it doesn't really do anything. I believe it does, so therefore I take vitamin C every day and always will. My wife got me started on D3.
Oh, that's a good one, yeah.
And B12 for energy. And then after my multivitamin, I take a supplement of zinc, magnesium, potassium, and I think that's it.
There's a list. I'm glad that you said that, a couple of those names there. If you're looking for specifics of not the product, but the specifics of the ingredients, there's a general kind of rule of thumb, at least in health promotion, and how we found this information was, again, cross-referencing. the information that was provided to us, whether it be healthcare providers or marketing, in studies and things like that. And so how we came to this was by looking at a multitude of cross-referencing facts and things like that. But A, D, E, K, so vitamins A, vitamins D, E, and K. They also had in there zinc, selenium, and magnesium. Because our diets don't have a lot of magnesium, neither our diets do not have a lot of zinc, right? And those are the mineral portions.
Did you say
of it.
magnesium?
Selenium. Yeah, he said magnesium. Yeah. And then you got the vitamins A, D, E, and K. And if you know all too well, if people have like a very low or no fat diet, how are you going to intake vitamin D, which is a fat soluble vitamin, right? So you have A, D, E is as well. So you got A, D, E, and K. I believe actually they're all A, D, E, and K, or they're all fat soluble vitamins. And so how are you going to intake them in if you're not intaking fat? So like fish oils and things of that nature. One thing I do want to hit on real quick, and this is no bash to anybody for fear of repercussions, is the very simple fact of, have you ever seen the study where you put a nail in Coca-Cola, right?
No.
Or not a study, but like a video rather, excuse me. So you take a nail and you crack open a fresh Coca-Cola, put a nail in there, and you pour the Coca-Cola in the container. Usually it's like glass so you can see through it, like a glass cup so you can see through it. And after so many hours, the nail is dissolved. Now, what the nail is made of, I don't know. It's the fact that it's metal and being dissolved. And they say our stomach acid is stronger, or is not as strong as the Coca-Cola, rather, which is kind of weird to me. I don't know if it's true or not, but the visual of it is it's dissolving a nail, right? And then you take compressed pills and you throw it in there. It's called the Coca-Cola test. You throw it in there. If it doesn't dissolve in 30 minutes in the Coca-Cola, it's not going to dissolve in your stomach before you get rid of it. Eventually, it's broken down. It's going to, but the emphasis, the impetus of it is the fact that that's not being broken down all the way. And furthermore, here's a complexity for all the viewers and listeners as well, is one of the most abundant minerals in the body is calcium, because calcium is needed for your bones. It's also needed for your blood, if you didn't know that. Calcium also helps with vasodilation. If I'm not misremembering this, but in the medical field, they give you calcium channel blockers if you have high blood pressure. And if there's any practitioners out there, any nurses that are cringing at this, please feel free to comment and correct me on this. But if I'm remembering correctly, because this is going really deep into history, because I don't usually go this in depth with talking just with individuals, but that helps with that medical situation in a sense and form, right? So what does that mean? It means that if you take something with calcium, it's going to absorb first, and it's going to push that other stuff. It's going to say, no, I need the calcium first, right? I need it for my blood. I need it for my bones. I need it for my vascularity situation. I'm going to need it for this. I'm going to need it for that. That's why they tell you don't take most medications with milk, because it just takes them, and it's not going to take that medication. It doesn't need it. Now, it doesn't mean all across the board, right? So it's interesting how you kind of, when you went through those, that's where my brain went, is like, how can I list it and show the relevance that it's complex, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
And so there's no way you can say, well, what does one have in their cabinet and take? That's why I say a multi, because it really depends on the person. It depends on the situation, if you're on medication or not. But again, you said for the average male individual, to answer the question for both of you as well, what I have is really focusing on the vitamin A, D, E, and K. And then you have the calcium, the magnesium, zinc, and selenium. Because we get calcium from milk, we get calcium from protein supplement drinks. And so that's why I don't have that in addition to what I take. But the best way to kind of blanket coverage everything is a multivitamin, multi-mineral supplement. And you'll notice in those, they don't always have calcium in them, because it's going to inhibit, for the most part, unless they're just really selling that with fillers and you're not really going to get the full benefit of it.
I did take a calcium supplement as well, and then had multiple doctors tell me that, when I say multiple, two doctors that don't know each other have both told me that my bones are too big. And that's why I had to have foot surgery, because the bones, they said the nerve that they cut out of my foot was not really that swollen. The problem is my bones are so enormous in my foot that there's no room for the nerves to be there.
No steroids, no growth hormones, no peptides or anything like that. Mm-mm. Just natural.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So
in a way.
I have a question.
It hurts.
So So I pretty much mimicked his morning intake of everything he said. I think I can add Shilajit, ashwagandha, milk thistle, and I do take calcium every morning. Everything he just named, put those on top of it. I drink some kind of protein shake that has like some thickness in it, some oatmeal and some other stuff to sit in my stomach for that to fall onto. Am I overdoing it? Because so I eat a lot. That's at 4 a.m. And then at 2 p.m., have you ever heard of the animal packs?
Yes.
At 2 p.m., after I've ate maybe 2 or 3 times, in my mind, I feel like I've digested and those vitamins, I'm already getting what I'm going to get from that. 2 p.m., that protein shake I break in half. And so like I have half of it in the morning and then eat a breakfast after that, a lunch, and then my last break of the day is another protein shake with the animal packs. Am I overdoing it with the vitamins?
How do you feel?
I mean, I feel pretty good, dude. I mean, sometimes I try to.
When you pee, it's bright yellow.
Yeah. So that just tells me I need more water to.
No, I think
that
you're
or-
getting rid of the vitamins.
And that's what that's what I'm worried about
Yeah.
is that I'm
Because you look
overdoing
at
it.
those like 5-hour shots or any supplement you take to be vitamins. The animal pack, I believe, has like a couple 1,000% of B vitamins. That's basing on a 2,000 calorie diet as well, which you're most likely taking more in because you're trying
Way
to
more.
maintain muscle growth. You're trying to maintain your weight and things like that and a lean stature.
Being a mesomorph too, his body absorbs these things quickly.
And I'm super active. Like even when I'm not here, I'm running around for 10 hours a day at my first job, and then I work here. And I mean, it's not so active working here, you know.
Unless you're active.
Yeah, yeah.
Could
But
be, but
I mean, it's just a matter of how do you feel, and you are noting that you feel good, right?
Yeah.
And people could argue, people who are listening could argue, well, steroids make you feel good, and they're not the greatest for you, right?
Yeah.
We get that. So let's use that as the foundation. Do you feel good? Have you been biometrically screened? So blood pressure.
Yeah,
Have you had
I'm
your blood taken? Have they ran anything like a simple panel for you, or even a complex one?
I got a complex one done, a very expensive one,
And so
I'm doing all right, but
you feel good, your numbers are good, and you're just concerned about getting rid of the additional, like you're not wasting money or wasting time or doing too much, because, you can get a diminished return by drinking too much caffeine, a diminished return by having too many B vitamins that'll cause you to kind of twitch and fidget, because that's a neurological thing, right?
as I bounce my leg.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
that's
over
just,
here like my fingers are going.
Yeah.
and so it's, it just really begs the questions of how do you feel and how are your numbers simplified.
Yeah.
I know that one thing that really intrigues me, and the name is escaping me, Gary Brecka. I'd heard about his methylated genome, I believe it's called, test, not his specifically, but he talks about it, where you go to get this test done at places like Ways to Well in Texas, and it's something that I really want to try and really want to do, because what it does is it looks at your genetic makeup, for lack of a better term, and it tells you what you might need in your diet. Now, some may argue
cool.
that it's at that moment in time, right? Some may argue that, your genome tells you regardless of that moment in time. Let's say you get it done multiple times, kind of like to see if you're a diabetic, you kind of check it a couple times. Either way, it's fascinating because people with genetic dispositions influences the hormones, like your most recent guest, influences the hormones. That's at the base level. And that also brings me to a topic of like the B vitamins as an example. You've got cyanocobalamin, which is a common B vitamin, but then you have a methyl form of that as well, which is more of a simplified form, if I'm not mistaken. So you've got different forms of these vitamins, and you got different pathways. And so while people may be listening and thinking, oh, there's a definitive answer that he's going to give me, there's really not, because everybody's different. Even if I have a definitive answer on you need these just by sitting here or reading your blood panel, there's no definitive answer per se, right?
Yeah,
there may
everyone's
be
different.
a common consensus about, you need X amount of grams of protein per day that you need to sustain this, right? There's a definitive answer for that. It's still a range, even if it's a small range.
Yeah.
But then there's like, well, water, you need X amount of water per day. You need X amount of calories per day to sustain. There's those general consensus answers, but everybody's different,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. That's cool. I mean, at least you're honest about that. You know what I mean? That it's like, I would rather have it be like that than to just be like, Chad, you need
Secret.
4 pieces of pizza to survive.
I love
through
this.
long.
I love this deal. Yeah.
No.
You know, it made me think about. I read or saw on a podcast one time where a guy talked about when he takes his vitamins, he drinks 2 bottles of water every morning.
That's good for digestion, breakdown.
And I mean, I do 1 large bottle of water every morning with my vitamins. That's the first thing I do after I go to the bathroom, brush my teeth. I hit them vitamins and drink that entire bottle of water. And when I started doing that, I was already taking the vitamins, and I've added vitamins, extra supplements and minerals. But I was already doing that. When I started drinking the water with it, that was the game changer for me. That really, it woke me up. People ask me, how do I get up at 5 a.m. every morning and come to the gym? And that is a big reason why.
Yeah.
Because by the time that water's down, it's almost instant. It's a very big boost of energy within just the first few minutes that I'm awake.
Yeah, I saw something that was very fascinating. I believe, again, Andrew Huberman, he had said something about instead of reaching for that caffeine early, first thing in the morning, try reaching for like a glass of water, bottle of water, a little bit of salt. And I don't even know, I can't remember if he said something about lemon juice or not.
Yep.
Yeah, my
That's a
girlfriend
big
drinks. There's always lemon, like a squeezed lemon in her water all day,
And
every
it's
day.
something
And I'm
about
like,
those,
what?
and I can't recall that. That's one of those things that I can't really recall knowing much about. And a lot of these topics I do just kind of the surface level that'll help anyways. So I'm not claiming to be hyper intelligent or anything, but that combination of water, salt, and again, who does that, right? That has no low blood pressure. Like, does somebody who have high blood pressure do that? Do we know?
Yeah,
Is that
I
a
do.
situation, right? So it's so. If
So
I
people
said
put salt in the water?
Yeah, they'll put
Regular salt?
just regular salt. Like,
Not the Himalayan. Well, I don't. I never.
I never understood it either. Some people say, well, Himalayan salt's better for you, but is there really salt in Himalayan mountains, or is it a salt flat nearby? Like, there's a joke about that. But and then they say, well, there's too much lead in this. But if you look at some supplements that say prop whatever, was it 95, 65? Where it's going to be, it may contain lead. And then you're like, what?
Yeah.
You look at a lot of your supplements at the bottom, it'll say that too.
Yeah.
That's neither here nor there, tangent. But some people they'll just take regular table salt and they'll throw it in there. And if you look, some salt is actually potassium salt too. If you didn't know that, there'll be some salt on the shelf. They'll say salt substitute. It's actually potassium. So you got the salt, the potassium salt, the Himalayan salt, the Celtic salt, and all that other salt, because this has more minerals or this or this or this. But watch out because it has lead, because of this, because of that. It's like complex. It's a headache is what it is. But then, okay, you can tell yourself, I'm just going to try the basics. It's simple.
Yeah,
I'm going to
water.
take a glass of water that's tap, right? That's something that I've never done before, as a new person would say. Me, I have. I'm going to try something like putting salt into that. How do I feel?
Yeah.
And then you just make note of that every day. If you start to feel, terrible, it's like a caffeine drink, right? You have one energy drink today or coffee today, and then next day you're like, I can do 2, then 3, and then 4. And then you notice that diminished return. You've noticed that you've kind of went on the cyclical spiral, as we talked about before we started, the cyclical spiral of going downhill, and then you drink coffee and now you're exhausted because your body knows what's about to happen.
Yeah.
Same thing goes for the water.
It's like
salt in the
heroin.
morning. I've never tried that.
Me neither.
But I mean, it's like, where do you start? Start somewhere, make note, and people it's not that complex. It is, but for the application of it, it doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
Right?
Just I took this, it made me bloated. It didn't make me bloated. It made me feel more energized, made me tired.
Yes.
Just keep
Trial and error.
And you just,
life.
keep the things that work and discard the things that don't.
And I think where the interesting part, kind of where this perspective came from, is because we were doing these presentations at Emporia State with the health promotion program. And we were doing these presentations at like companies, the city of Emporia and things like that. Like we were going around, we had these trifold boards where, look at this, take this with you. Here's a t-shirt, here's a Frisbee or something like that. We were doing these promotional things at these venues. And what fascinated me is because we pointed to these references of like, look at this nutrition label, or look at these grams of sugar that are in this drink. There's these, 1 little gram cubes, and there's 78 of them, and here's the soda pop next to it that's equivalent to that. People were mind blown, the visual of it. But we also provided like these books, like Eat This, Not That. And at first I was frustrated with them.
Yeah.
Because it would say, well, eat this, not that. And I had a very simple question. What if the ingredients changed? And I'm certain that I wasn't the first one to ever think of that question. But that's kind of where the foundation, that road where I took that fork in the road and went down that way. And later on in the book, I fingered through it a couple, 100 times. And then in the back, and on some of these, they would say, watch out for sodium content may cause bloating. Like there was things in there that were typed and that people wrote in these books because, we handed them off to people. And I thought, well, that's fascinating because we can tell somebody, watch out for 1,000 milligrams of salt a day or 2,000 milligrams of salt a day, whatever resource said what. But then the person would be left standing there and go, okay, well, that says that number and that says that number. And they would have no way to correlate it to them. Again, too much salt, bloating in the abdomen, or kind of puffiness in the body.
Yeah.
Right?
Man,
Like all
I'm eating a
over.
lot of salt. In talking about not knowing which ones to believe, which, is there like a website that the government, the health department puts out that says, because I know that over years the food pyramid has changed.
Oh, yeah. Many
I would
times.
assume that the amount of daily recommended sodium, magnesium, potassium, vitamin, I assume that has changed.
Yeah, of course. We definitely want to give people who are listening and watching a good takeaway, I would say that a good one is American Heart Association. I just have to have some sort of a cross-reference, and I'm deferring to that topic again, that definition again. But I like the, what they give for their recommendation. You could look at My Food Plate, which is different than the My Food Pyramid. And it will give kind of a general consensus on those two websites on what you can kind of gauge about what you're supposed to take in on a daily basis, or
It's the bike. Someone's on
they
the
are
bike.
dying.
Someone's
Oh, great.
this. They're doing that.
We're
at
gonna
high speeds.
We're now at 30,000 feet, ladies and gentlemen.
So if you guys at home are hearing that, we are at live from Indy Fitness. Somebody's out there on the assault bike getting after it.
They're
So
assaulting.
They're salty. But too much salt's bad. No.
Yeah.
What a dad joke and riff, right? But I would say that even though that there are resources or references, pamphlets, brochures, something that references like a .gov website, a lot of people will look to that as to being official, while another person may say that do we trust the readout of the governmental, all conspiracies aside, right? Or do we trust the .com, the company, the commercial website? What do we trust? I like EDUs, like .edus.
Okay.
So I like going to, let's say educational reference or edu reference or something along those lines. Like you're just making up words in your search bar, but you're looking for .edu generally because there's students who
Education.
yeah. There's students who will do these studies for free
On their own.
and they have to have them verified, and there's a whole process to it. But I did and still do use PubMed, that's PUBMED.gov, but that is a long abstract of information. What I like now with AI, things like ChatGPT, now you have to be careful with that because you don't always know if it's providing the accurate information. It's just skimming the internet and providing this information to you. So for people at home, I would I would urge to utilize some sort of, I mean, it's going to be utilized anyways. If you noticed Google or Safari's based on Google now. And so whenever you type something in and it gives you that abstract, kind of like the back of a book that you've read or back of a textbook, it'll give you an abstract and it'll say, this is this. And you go, well, how do I know if that's healthy for me or true? And then how do I know? You ask those, provide the reference, provide the resource.
Yeah.
And it will defer a lot until you ask a couple questions, and then it will give you a website to which you can click on or copy and paste and put it back in the search bar. And then it will give you like the website and it'll tell you how much and this, that, and the other. And the reason why I didn't say like 15 different websites, because if the daily recommended amount, the DRA for sodium, has changed over the years, it would say for a male, you could have, I believe at one time it said like 1,600 milligrams for an average male, 200 pounds, 20 to 40 years old. Somewhere that number's coming to my mind, and I don't know how I'm spitting that out. But then it would say 1,800 milligrams or 2,200 milligrams. And so it went up, it went down, it changed my food pyramid, my plate. So I look at 5, 6, 7 different sites depending on the topic I'm researching and just go, well, it's the best I got.
Yeah.
Because if you ever ask a doctor, no offense to any doctors or physicians, if you ask them, what's good, what's bad, and then go, well, how many nutritional classes did you have?
Yeah.
No offense to them, right? They're busy with the pharma side of things, and they may not have had nutritional classes. Or you ask a nutritionist, which my favorite, last time I talked to a nutritionist, my last time I talked to one, was a nutritionist of a hospital while she's sitting there getting her cigarette pack out to go outside. And I'm like, you don't have to be an exemplary individual and practice what you preach. I get it.
Yeah.
So show me your references and resources. And her thing is, all the cigarette stuff aside, all the healthy issues aside, I said, none of that matters. I just need to know where you're finding this stuff, because I'm collecting from people who are professionals, and I want to provide it to people. I want to be that middleman to provide it, which is what I'm trying to do here today, re-emphasizing on the fact that it's not really known. They hand me pamphlets.
Yeah.
Who printed that pamphlet? They show me a website. Who did that website? Those are questions you got to ask for complexity purposes. But otherwise, if you are recording what you are doing and it's becoming a positive for your body, for yourself, for your mental health and sanity and all the other things, then it must be working for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We don't pay enough attention to our bodies. Go ahead.
So the gist of what you're saying when it comes to all this is pay attention to what you're doing, how you feel, try things, question those things that you're trying, research them on your own from multiple different points of view, whether the internet or whatever, and then
basically we all wear different size shoes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And me and Otto, we both wear 12s, but he puts my shoe on and it's a 2E minimum. And it wobbles in his foot. It doesn't work for him.
Exactly.
So even if we're the same size, the same, I know race has to do with some genetic markers. Obviously, male and female.
Yeah.
Age. You said you were going to hit on that Centrum Silver. I don't know what happens when you turn 50. But I know when you turn 50,
it's a different pill.
You give the regular Centrum, and you go to the Centrum Silver.
I believe it's just have something to do with maybe more additional calcium or vitamin K or something to that nature that helps your body process that a little bit differently, or that your body can't process it differently, so they give you something that might break down easier. There's a multitude of things, different shoes.
Right, but the point is, 50 is just the number that they've decided to market that to.
It's
right.
If you want to go back to the other one, you can, man.
I think I probably would.
It would scare a lot of people if they said Centrum 35. You go, wait, what's happening at 35? What is going on here?
Yeah, so it really depends on your health. There are so many things that I'd like to get into. We're not going to have time to get into everything because I'd like to talk about when you're on a diet. When I say diet, I mean. I hate the word diet.
I
honestly.
do too. Yeah.
When you change your lifestyle to want to lose weight or gain weight, there could be multiple answers, but usually there's a lot more people who want to lose weight in America than there are people who want to gain weight.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And we sit here and talk about you do this that makes you feel good. Well, when you start a calorie deficit, you do not feel good.
No, I'm glad that you said it exactly like that. That is imperative that people hear it like that.
You are not going to feel good.
No.
At first, right? But after your body adjusts, like if your body is used to taking in 50 grams of sugar a day, I don't even know a number.
They do have a baseline for that. Try to go under 100 grams of sugar, which is incredibly difficult. So I can spit some numbers, sodium,
Yeah,
salt. in my head.
so your body's used to 300 grams of sugar a day, and you decide I'm going to take it to 100. You're going to be not feeling well. That doesn't mean it's
You're
not
gonna be
working.
sad.
But to that same point, yeah, you're going to be sad. You're going to be, I don't want to go to the gym. I have no energy and things like that. I want to hit on that because people who have created the caloric deficit in their diet, whether it be intermittent fasting, if you guys have ever done that, whether it's like with water or people have done the cabbage diet, things like that, but the lifestyle choice instead of diet, when they create the caloric deficit and only eat when they're truly hungry, instead of like, I've got to eat 3 times a day, but I feel terrible, right? So when you create that caloric deficit, some people actually do have more energy because they're eating smaller meals more times a day, but then a lot of people don't have the time for that. But those who do, right, they may have more energy overall because their body does not need more than 1,200 calories to survive. There was something that was, it was a while back, and it was like you needed a minimum of like 1,400 calories a day for some female at some size, at some weight, right? But let's topic weight here in a second. And then male was like 1,800 or 22 calories, but it was the age, it was a weight thing as well. And how active are you? So there was this big column that they'd done, and at the bottom it said, goals and results may vary and everything. And I go, what is this whole column for then? What is this, all this for?
Yeah.
You're basically
Because,
just
like,
giving a visual. But
I've seen, there was a photo on Instagram one day, and it showed all these women lined up, and they all weighed within 2 or 3 pounds of each other.
that
And they looked
different body structures.
nothing alike.
Exactly. Everyone
So,
was different.
And this is why I say that number that you just talked about is complete bullshit. Because Otto is sitting over here at 200 pounds, right? Rough.
215.
Oh,
Whoa.
shit, fat ass.
I'm trying to go up. I'm trying to go up.
He's sitting over here at 215, very lean, very muscular. And so someone else, even the same height, what are you, 6'1"?
6'2", I think.
Yeah, 6'1".
6'2".
Tops, bro.
6'1" and a half.
Anyway, someone the same height, same weight may look completely different. And as you talked about early on in this, muscle is the great waster of calories, right? Like, so he is going to need more calories
Yes.
to just maintain what he has. Where if the person who doesn't have the muscle mass, I'm just trying to make this simple so people can get a visual.
You're doing a
in their
better
head.
job than I am.
They can
I
get
went
a
complex
visual.
down the too many roads.
They're a little on the chunky side.
Yeah.
If they eat the same amount of calories he does, they're going to gain weight.
Yeah.
Where if he doesn't eat that many calories, he's going to lose weight
And their
quick.
activity level as well,
Yeah.
not just their
Yeah.
stasis.
So it is a big guessing game, and no one knows there is no one. The one thing that I've learned from you today is there is no true answer, and it's not because you told me that. It's because of the way my brain works. Now I'm like, okay, now I get what he's saying, because I really wanted, like, man, you need some L-arginine in your diet. I don't know what this thing is. That's what I kind of wanted to hear, but I think what I'm hearing is more valuable is it's all up to you. It's each
You got to
individual
figure it
is
out
different.
on your own.
Yeah.
kind of
Sadly,
thing.
you do. And on the energy level and what I mentioned about before, so I don't forget this, because I did mention it, I want to leave people hanging here. But for the mental aspect and for the physical aspect, for the recovery, and for those who, like us, we love our caffeine, right? Like, I can't speak for you. We were just riffing about that
Yeah.
before we started. Creatine is a huge similar to like a nootropic. Some might classify it as like a brain supplement, and other people classify the creatine as like, oh, I'm going to get bulky, I'm going to get water weight, and things like that. All those little nuances that you heard throughout the years. But if you take creatine, I believe the standard is like 5 grams a day.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's at any one point in time or throughout the day, but people will do a creatine load and all this other stuff. But if you just take a standard in like warm water, 5 grams every day, because it dissolves better in warm water, then you'll notice a host of benefits. And one of them is that I've seen specifically, I can't speak for everybody, but one thing that I've seen a benefit is having an energy level that doesn't make me feel like I require caffeine for energy. I love my caffeine. It has that dopamine response, and it makes you feel good, gives you that energy, kind of starts your day off nice. But like creatine does that almost equally, depending on the resource caffeine and things like that. But also it helps with muscle growth. And we can go on to talk about, and here's what's interesting about the supplement of creatine. We can go and talk about, if anybody remembers science class, grade school, probably 5th or 6th grade, you would get the ATP, right, the mitochondria, but then it was -PCR. Right, so over your head, right? So,
Me too.
So the complexity of that simplified down to, creatine helps with the energy, and you worry about your foods that give you energy. So all that we've talked about today, there's specifically a reason why I didn't mention this until the very end, right? We can be confused, and hopefully those who have clicked out of it and thought, oh, nope, too much, will come back to this, and those who've listened to this point will go, hey, no, go listen to the very end of this. Because when you focus on foods that will help you, and supplements and minerals that will help you, like the ones that I listed before, and even creatine, right? You focus on the foods, the minerals, the vitamins, the hydration that helps you, you're going to find out that those are also along the same line of those that help with mitochondrial function. And mitochondria is a powerhouse of the cell.
Yeah.
So if you have a powerhouse of the cell functioning, it's kind of like the nuclear reactor of your body per se, where you put in 2 and it gives you 3 or 4, right? Which is like literal nuclear.
Yeah.
So it's so you are your own little like nuclear reactor per se, and so you are getting out more than what you put in, so to speak. But you're also being able to, as an individual, go, okay, so the answer is focus on foods that are going to help mitochondrial function, right? And that's the only difficult part is going, okay, well, what foods are that, right? We talked about the vitamins, we talked about the minerals, all those help, right? Those are all the good things for your body. What do those good things do? They help you function better. And then ultimately, when you function better, you have less inflammation, less immune issues, vitamin C, things like that, zinc. And then you get down to the mitochondrial function, which helps with energy, recovery, and it doesn't have you rely on as much of these other things that cause a detriment to your health, too much caffeine, too much sugar, things of that nature. So you could literally boil it down to what we talked about leading up to mitochondrial function. And so if you focus on that, that's just one drop of water in a huge bucket for your body. But the way to navigate through that is to by recording what you are doing, because everybody's different.
Yep.
Along the way, in order to say, hey, this is working, hey, that path's not working. And it may change, right? Which is frustrating.
Throughout your life, yeah.
Throughout your life, just like your taste buds do. And I joked about someone literally earlier today, and I said, I don't know how anybody can eat Brussels sprouts. I hate them. My grandpa loves them. It's like certain foods, though. Like I hated spinach when I was a kid. I like it now. So it's like those things.
Me too.
So when you look at, kind of boil it down, you could talk about the ingredients, the vitamins, the minerals, the mitochondria. And the thing that I help kind of wrap that all up in a nice little bow is when I go with people to the store, or when I, Skype them, or get on like Microsoft Teams or Zoom, get on a phone call with them, FaceTime them. And this is how I help people. So all this complexity and all this hoopla of information that may seem like it's going nowhere is literally when I sit down with them and I turn that bottle around, or I turn that box around, and I go, I could tell you all this stuff over here, and what you're looking at is this right here, and there's no connection. You're researching online. It's just really open and vague. It's marketing, and I help them go through that nutritional guidance, that nutrition label, the nutrient facts that are on there and say, this is in here, but also it's listed down here. Like the first 5 ingredients are like the most 5. And if you ever noticed anything, it'll say like sugar. It's the first ingredient, and you're like, well, that's got the most amount in here.
Yeah.
And above it says 39 grams of
Yeah.
sugar, 40 grams of carb.
I think
I
it's-
go through all that with them and help them. Okay, that may connect that connection for them
Yeah.
and for the foods that they're eating. So go
I
ahead.
say, get online, because I did this before we even had the internet. I had learned this. I was taught by a nutritionist, is learn how to read a food label.
It's very important.
There's so many people that, I take for granted that everyone knows that a carbohydrate is a sugar or a flour or a grain, or they don't.
I don't know none of that stuff, bro.
Some people think we say protein.
Right.
You and I know that means meat and beans and things like that, where other people are like, okay, it says eat protein. What's protein?
What's protein? Yeah.
No, protein, is essentially, there are so many proteins
Mm-hmm.
and there are so many carbohydrates. But it's, if your New Year's resolution is to get in shape and, shed some weight, the key is eat whatever amount of protein you're eating now, jump that up a little bit, and whatever amount of carbohydrates you're eating now, especially anything white, like white rice,
Good point.
white flour,
Anything bleached,
White
enriched,
sugar.
white. Yeah.
don't eat that.
Yeah.
Potatoes, eat the orange ones, not the the sweet potatoes,
sweet
not
potatoes,
the
there you go.
not the white ones.
Yep.
And you will lose weight. There's and you will gain muscle and be able to maintain it if you just eat more meat and beans and things that are full of protein, and less things that are simple. And the other thing, I've said before, the difference between a complex carbohydrate and a simple.
Yeah.
And people are like, I have no
I
idea.
don't get it.
I have no idea. It basically is what, sugar, white sugar, you eat that, you get, it's simple. You're simple, meaning your body can digest it very simply.
Very quickly.
But, yeah, it's simple to do.
Was
It
it,
just goes right into the cells.
Was it Marshawn Lynch, famous
Skittles.
NFL athlete? Skittles. Do you know why he did that?
Energy right
Yeah.
now.
Mhm. Quick energy.
Yeah.
And because your muscle, I say liquefies, but it liquefies, essentially, it burns out, because what are your energy sources while you're exercising?
The simple
Right.
ones.
The simple
Quick ones.
Simple energy, right?
Yeah.
And then muscle, because it takes a lot of calories to maintain it. So you're going to go from the simple energy sources to your muscle breakdown, which is why you're sore, because it's breaking down, right? Obviously being worked and torn and things like that. There's a multitude of other things. But that's why he popped those Skittles, because he was trying to keep his sugar up, keep his energy level up in order to preserve his muscle. So the way he just maintained his stature and status and being able to run through people, right?
Yeah.
And that was what I interpreted from it by putting
Yeah.
A plus B plus C. And I'm sure he said it on an interview somewhere.
Well, I
so-
don't know. I don't know that Marshawn Lynch knows, because sometimes your body just tells you what you need without even
need something sweet.
right?
Yeah.
So Dr. Jim Stepani, I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Probably
Dr.
sounds
Jim.
really familiar. I'm sure.
He's a bodybuilder, but he is a very smart in nutrition, and when you lift weights, especially high intensity weightlifting, you burn out all the sugar,
Very
your
good.
glycogen in your
Yes.
muscles, and he has done his research and determined that Harborough gummy bears is the
Really?
perfect sugar for restoring those glycogen stores quickly.
Really?
Yeah,
I
Harborough.
learned something today.
Yeah,
That's
I don't-
fascinating.
yeah, and Dr. Jim Stepani is it's so funny. People at home, you look him up, you're gonna be like, that guy knows what he's talking about. Because if you see a picture of him, he's covered from head to toe with tattoos. And he's built. He's
Off
big time.
gummy bears.
In his 60s.
Yeah.
But then you go, don't judge a book by its cover. Go listen to him talk. Take you about 2 minutes to realize he's very intelligent and knows what he's talking about. Anyway,
Guess I need to go
got
get some
off
gummy
topic
bears, too.
again.
No,
But
I
yeah,
need
gummy bears.
Yeah.
And so we keep some gummy bears in our office.
We do?
until you eat them all.
Until you,
Or fruit snacks because they're high in sugar. And it happened just the other day, there was a lady out there working out with a personal trainer early in the morning. I don't think she had enough to eat.
probably not.
And she started getting a little dizzy and feeling not right. And I said, here, have this. 5 minutes later, she felt fine.
Yeah, that's what happens. I'll take too much caffeine in, whether it's a pre-workout or not enough to eat, so I don't have enough sugar in my system. But usually it's caffeine, and I'll get that muffled sound in my ears. My eyes will start to get tunnel vision, and I go, oh, I need to sit down. I need to get some sugar, so I try to carry orange juice with me to sip on, or even some chocolate milk. But you don't want warm chocolate milk with you in the gym. But just something to kind of.
I've had people here drinking gallons of milk before.
Oh, jeez! While working out.
Yeah, while working out.
Good Lord!
I'll poop my pants for sure. A guarantee.
Something else too. I just want to touch on, and just get your opinion, but because I did want some answers, and I want to give the people some answers. One of the things I have researched this topic because I wanted to know for myself. If you are starting to work out, and there are so many commercials for this supplement and that supplement, this company, that company, peptides, blah blah blah, test boosters, you name it, it's all out there, and you can find multiple websites from very credible. When I say credible, I don't mean doctors. I mean people who have been lifting weights and going to the gym for many years.
Right.
They say, in this order, the top 3 things. Number 1, protein supplement. If you're going to start lifting weights, a protein supplement will help you get bigger muscles. It's science. It's not a fad. Number 2 would be a pre-workout because it gives you the energy. Some people think of pre-workout as caffeine.
Right.
And it is caffeine.
We'll topic that.
But it's got a lot of other stuff in it too.
Yes, absolutely.
That helps with blood flow and focus and stamina. And the third and final thing is creatine. Clinically proven to put muscle mass on.
Yeah, specifically creatine monohydrate is in a plethora of studies on that. So yes.
And so those 3 things are what you should start with.
I will add to that. I'll say I enjoy the efficacy and the efficiency of whey protein because it's a simplified protein source. There are a couple different ones that I have used, like Rise protein. I do use that. I've used Chris Powell used to have one that I liked a lot. I don't know if he still has one or not. It's been a while since I've ordered. Clearly, I didn't know, but I like a couple of them, very, very few of them. I try to avoid all the dyes. That's a complexity for another time, but the Rise has some dyes in them, so I try your best. If you can get a simplified, no color, no additive whey protein, I like that because you can add it in water. You can blend it in milk, especially if you're lactose intolerant. In regards to the pre-workouts, there's a couple that I've really enjoyed throughout the years, and they're just off the shelf ones. So even as I talk about, you need to know if they're good for you or not, or if they have any of these badgings and things like that. There's a lot of complexity to that. So I'm being hypocritical when I say that, but at the same breath, I'm just an average individual, right? Like I'm no like John Cena or Dwayne The Rock Johnson, but I'm at my structure that I feel the most comfortable at, and for what time I have available, right? So it's my excuse. But at the same time, the pre-workouts that I generally like are ones with less caffeine. I used to like C4, which had a ton of caffeine. I'm talking about the original one. Had a beta-alanine in it, had a huge dose of niacin in it, and I loved that hot flushing feeling, especially power cleaning, because it was a boost. I love it. Just go. But as of late, within the last 4 years, I like the pre-workout. There was one called Hyde, Hyde, like Jekyll and Hyde.
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
And I liked that one because it was simple. It had creatine in it. It had a citrulline, which citrulline breaking down turns arginine in the body. It just circulates. I think citrulline circulates, and it helps with arginine. It probably had some vitamin C, which vitamin C and arginine work together very synchronistically. and then it had some other things like beta alanine and some other ingredients in there. It now has caffeine in it. Most of the hides have caffeine in them, but Jekyll does not, which I think is interesting how they did that.
Yeah.
And it has basically took the same form as hide and went to Jekyll with no caffeine. I like that because I like the vasodilation, the pump effect. Now it'll wear off after you're done taking it, so your muscles, you're like, man, I gained a lot, and then tomorrow you may not look like that. You got a nice pump going on with or without a supplement. But it helps with the nutrient delivery, the hydration. That's very important while you're working out. It helps with the oxygen delivery. And then you can kind of bump on down to creatine monohydrate. A plethora of studies on those folks, and I can give a specific site for that one. Is the pubmed.gov, as I mentioned about 3 times before already. That's a good one because they are just studies after study after study after study after study. And then that'll lead you to EDU studies, scholar studies. You can click the scholar tab too, I forgot to mention. There's like a scholar or educational tab on most of your search browsers that when you type it in, you can click that and it'll send you to all of the publications, whether it be the National Institute of Health, CDC, AHA, all those acronyms of those health websites. There's a publication there for the journals and things like that of individual educational institutions and individuals who've done that peer-reviewed study, triple-blind placebo controls, and all those things. Or I said triple, double-blind placebo control studies and things like that. But to hit on, like you said, the protein, it is super important for that. Because if you are a 200-pound male and you read somewhere that it says you need 1 gram per, now bear with me on this, it'll say 1 gram per pound. So you need 200 grams a day, but then there's other ones that will say you need 1 gram per kilogram. And a pound is what, 2.2?
Yep.
Or 2.2
2.2
pounds is a kilogram.
kilograms,
So
yep.
then you need less, right? So depending on your resource, you could just very plainly say, okay, do I need 200 grams of protein, or do I need about 90 grams? And then you can hit right in the middle and just note,
Yeah.
I had an issue today with my stomach. Let's do 10 or 20 less grams and try that out, and people will start taking that preemptively before they work out. Like they'll take a protein drink before they work out, and it's not the greatest thing to do in my opinion. You may need the energy. Some people need that.
Yeah.
I cannot do that. I have to take it afterwards or else I will get sick in the gym. Like it's
So,
just not,
and when you talked about whey protein, there's a bunch of different proteins. My favorite one is, it's called Combat Protein Powder.
Is that by Muscle Farm?
It is.
Yes.
And it has 4 different proteins in it.
Whey,
it has your
casein.
whey and whey at the top, because whey is kind of like a simple sugar when I talk about how fast it
Fast it
digests.
is,
So
yes.
they say you should take a whey protein within an hour of your workout, after your workout, post-workout. But the casein protein, being at the bottom of the list, is a very slow digesting.
Yes.
So that protein works great for when you go to bed at night. If you could take a casein protein drink, that helps repair your muscles
While you're
overnight,
asleep.
and it really works well as the longer digestion.
Where'd you buy that stuff at?
Same place you buy everything online. But casein is a milk protein, and where whey is from beef or from meat.
Good question. I've never actually looked that up in all the years that I've taken whey.
I believe
never looked
whey
at the
protein's
resource.
from meat, and casein I know is from milk. It's a milk protein, so keep that in mind if you're lactose intolerant too. I mean, these. Otto said you mix yours with almond milk,
Yeah.
and I do the same because
It's just lighter on the stomach.
where's the tits on it?
Almond.
Where's the teats on an almond?
Yeah.
Like I don't know, but
There's a commercial about that.
Yeah. You can't milk an almond, but you can get almond milk. But there are now studies saying, oh, almond milk is bad for you. It's just you do your own research.
Yeah.
There are people that tell me pre-workout is bad for me, and they may be right, but it's my choice and it's how it makes me feel.
Yes.
That it works for me.
Back to how you feel.
And when you were talking about the supplements you like, it made me put this correlation. The supplements JYM,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
that's Dr. Jim Stepani's line.
okay. See, I didn't
And
even know that
they are
either.
very, and I'm not an advocate for, they're not my favorite in the flavors and things, so I've tried them, but he makes a stem-free pre-workout, and he is very, very much about the quality of his product.
And that's
so you're
imperative.
getting some very pure ingredients. I just don't care for the flavor of them.
There's one that I heard about the quality is Athletic Greens, and that's, highly promotionalized, commercialized, whatever word you want to use. I haven't tried it, but I worked with a guy who did, and he said, I didn't notice, and this is really important for people, regardless of what supplement we're talking about or what vitamin or mineral, it goes back to how do you feel, but he goes, he said, I didn't notice a damn thing. I didn't notice anything at all until I stopped taking it. And I go, but there's two questions here. Has that been the only supplement that you've ever taken in your life? If so, that's why your body was getting some form of nourishment. And if not, why was that one different than another one that you took? Like, did it have more ingredients? Well, if you were to put them label to label, did it have one extra ingredient in it? Let's just assume that it did. You go, okay, that must be the ingredient, right? Must be, without looking at anything further.
Yeah.
So yeah, the cleanliness of their supplement is very important. But if everybody just tries and notes how they are feeling, that's what's most important. But the label is the most. It's kind of where all your answers lie, because if you're going to not do any research because you're busy, right? Say you got 4 kids, or you got a job, or you're just super busy. You're trying to juggle too much. You're like, I have no time. AI says this, I'm going to go with it. Fine. Or if you look at the nutrition label, if you don't even have time to look it up and you're just walking through the store or ordering to get it delivered at your car to your local Walmart, right? Or to your house or your actual door at your house. But you just look at the labels and you go, okay, well, that's what I'm going to eat. And you feel tired after eating that. Then you go, okay, well, there's a lot of sugar in that product. I'm going to order something that's right next to it, because you got a cereal aisle that's mile long. You got a box aisle that's a mile long.
Yeah.
But there's good cereals that you can eat. So
Complex carbohydrates.
Right. So you're trying to make a better decision, but you got to start somewhere. You can't just have this analysis paralysis, which happens to a lot of people, which is why they get frustrated, right? They have this thought, I'm going to feel better, and then someone stops them. But the thought of getting better releases dopamine in the body. If you guys didn't know this, it's like a kid getting a cookie, and when you tell them no, they have this huge tantrum, they blow up, because in their mind, the thought of receiving something from the thought of the action actually releases more or as much dopamine and feel-good happiness.
By the way, there's some cookies over there
There's
that I've
some
been
cookies.
thinking about for the last hour.
But so you go through that, and then people get frustrated. So you just pay attention to the label, and just take your note how you feel after what you're taking, after what you're drinking. And that's where I try to come in. While all this is complex, we're trying to hit on a lot of topics, a lot of different variables, a lot of different avenues, a lot of different roads, which can be frustrating, right?
Yeah.
But the answer is literally right in front of you. As cliche as it sounds, the answer is right in front of you. If you are only allowed to take item A, item B, and item C, and they're all mixed together in different ratios in that container, and it makes you feel terrible, and then you mix it in a different ratio, and it makes you feel better. So like less sugars, let's assume sugars, C and A is protein and B is as fats, right? So just different ratios. And then you find out, wow, I feel better eating that instead of that. So now I'm going to go down that path. And then you just make these incremental changes. And it's like going to the gym, which I urge everybody to do. This is a promotional aspect right now. Like, go to the gym, and even if you're here for 5 minutes the first day, stay for 5, go home, come back, 6 minutes the next day. And there's a ceiling which you'll hit, but everyone's different. But generally, what would you say, 30 to 45 minutes?
You can get a good workout from the time you walk into the door to the time you walk out of it in less than an hour. You can be in and out. A lot of people, 45 minutes if you just stay after it. If you want to be a big, strong power lifter, you're going to have a couple hour workout, but you're going to have just as much rest.
Yes.
Because you have to rest a lot between sets. But it really depends what you want. But this episode is going to hit the airwaves just a few days before New Year's Day.
Fantastic.
And probably the 29th, I assume, is when it should come out. Marco. I want people, those people to know 30 to 45 minutes, if you just come in here and stay after, you can get a great workout.
Yeah.
Even try the HIIT workouts on Mondays and Thursdays here at 7. 30 minutes with friends, and you get a cardio and you get some muscle building in there as well.
And I go ahead. I'll let you finish.
No, that's a good place to start, and you can get it in. You can get it in quick. So I mean, and you know what? This isn't. We make sure to say. I mean, first of all, I would love for everyone to come join Indy Fitness. But that's not what this is about.
Yeah.
I don't care if they go to the park. I don't. There's
Something
stuff
physical,
there.
yeah.
You know, so people keep telling me someone's going to open the other gym. Go for it.
Yeah.
That might be your place. This might not be it. That might be it. I just want to see you get better and feel better and be better.
And be healthier, and that's what this is about. That's why we're doing this, right?
Yes.
That's why you guys started this, which I give you kudos for doing. It's not easy, but it's also not hard, right? You got to start just like you guys are starting your podcast, one device at a time, one guest at a time, one day at a time, one recording at a time. It's where I kind of relate to the people who come to the gym, and whether or not you get a personal trainer, just show up. Again, the park, the other gym, something. Just show up to your exercise. Start somewhere. Note how you feel. If you're getting exhausted and you have no energy, then it's time to take a look at your intake. It's time to take a look at the nutrition labels, like your intake before, after your workout. There can be a complexity, but there also can be a huge simplicity to that. And so, with that, I mean, I really feel like I'm repeating myself 1,000 times, but I mean,
but it's important information.
It's very important.
Yeah.
It's very important.
Well, we probably about ran out of time today, but Cody, man, I there's a lot of great information here. I really appreciate it. I'm probably going to have a lot more questions going forward.
That's fine.
And
Speed dial.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll see what happens. We might have you back on if we can narrow down a subject to less broad.
Yes.
Anyway, Otto, any final thoughts?
No, I'm good.
That's why
I'm educated right now.
I'll keep this, real brief, but generic. Over encompassing was what this was about today. But if you guys have me on again in the future, fantastic. If not, I understand you're busy. But any other specific topics, I'll be glad to sit down and narrow down. We'll bring a computer or get on our phones or something and kind of give directive, like in specific things, like one could be a protein or even the fat nutrition facts label or something like that, because we could spend 12 hours talking about all of that, just of the topics that we briefly hit on.
There's not enough time to, and it's what's crazy is we could talk about this for hours. And there are people way smarter than us about the topic.
Absolutely.
They could talk about it for years because it's so complex. So the human body is the most complex thing on earth, probably.
I would agree.
So, all right, guys. Till next time, we'll see you.